Well, I have a two-part profession. On the one hand, I work with police. On the other hand, I work with social conflict. And a lot of what I do is try to get institutions of state, like the police, and like other government departments, to work constructively and creatively on social conflict, be this so-called xenophobia, migration or refugee issues, terrorism, or drugs and gang violence. My day can be pretty boring a lot of the time. I can sit at the desk and write policy briefs and position papers based on formal government legislation and see what options there are for police or other institutions to take in response to a particular social conflict, be this house invasion or challenge of migration or illegal migration, call it what you like, and what they can do in relation to policy and what strategic options they can take. Then I can have more interesting days that involve actually actively observing election processes or actively observing police operations, be it in my own country or elsewhere. That sees me travel a lot, and I spend a lot of time either on an airplane or sitting around an airport. The job involves also sitting and listening to people for long times, be this affected communities who's directly affected often by violent conflict or disruptions to a democratic process, or sitting in meetings listening to government officials and other public officials either meet with communities and facilitating that meeting, or sitting directly in their meetings. So a lot of my days can also involve sitting in very lengthy, rather boring, dare I say, meetings. Nothing glamorous about it. At the moment, I'm working ostensibly for and with the South African government. I also work regionally as part of an extension of the SADC process, South African Development Community, and I also work with other interstate institutions, both in terms of training or as a resource person or as an advisor. Personally, I'm born and bred Cape Townian, as we say, back in South Africa. So I grew up as a kid in the sort of like 80s, throwing stones, I guess, and going to university. And then largely fell into my job by accident. I was selected as a youth leader to do work amongst other young youth to find how we could talk together about the future in my own country that continues to be divided. And that led me to start thinking seriously about dialogue processes and the role that dialogue processes can play, and the opportunity to hear how others saw me, or to hear and understand what their fears and concern was. And I was fortunate, for me, very young, when I started appreciating and being introduced to the power of process. So since then I've formally studied the subject. I got postgraduate qualifications. I've been able to meet some wonderful practitioners in the world and get feedback from people. And I think today I still try to be available to get feedback on my own practice and to learn from others. And we can always learn from each other in conflict. I think it's, for me, less about methodology and more about ideology and values. I have a core set of values that fundamentally oppose amounts to respect for my fellow human beings, expect the best of myself and from them, and believing in the goodness that's within them. The methods I try to use is principle-based, so it's about inclusivity, representation, making sure that people speak for themselves, and where they can't, ensuring that they get assistance to do so. I don't like talking about empowering other people. The best way to empower other people is to listen to what they want. And if what they want seeks to further disempower or brutalize or dehumanize others, I may challenge that as a need. And I focus more directly on our shared and common needs, common interests, and common future, because I do sincerely believe that we as people need each other, and that my rights and my needs can only be fulfilled through other people. I can't do this by myself. So it's less about methodology and more about principles and values. The sun coming up in the morning and the fact that I'm still there. I thoroughly enjoy life. I consider what I do as a prayer or my form of community service. And I think that we should all be doing some sort of public service, regardless of where we are. And if I can see others smile and be part of their celebration of the fact that we're all alive, that really keeps me going. It can be very tiring, and it's not necessarily easy. Yet, if I don't stay optimistic, if I don't believe that we have a future together, then I won't even bother to get up in the morning. So what keeps me motivated? The fact that I will be learning and being challenged by others all the time. Tiring and as stressful as that can be, it's also energizing. In my own life, I think the gift of family is one of the biggest moments in being able to remind myself that I have people who don't have a choice but to love me and who don't have a choice but to listen to me, and if need be, I don't have a choice but to feed me. Other moments may include my own seeing the political liberation of my own country in my lifetime, being able to see the example of good people, big and small, known and unknown, and how they sought to ensure that what we have, little as it have, is that we can share it with others. So those moments will always remain with me. And the moment that we, as a country, shaped a new set of symbols that we could all put value in without making the symbols more important than the people. Like a flag, a new anthem, forge a new common identity. And we're still on that process of forging a common identity and not just being trapped in our individual identities, as important as those identities are. Peace for me is silence. It's the ability to enjoy silence. A lot of our world is very busy, it's very noisy with people, with activity, and with doing. I think peace for me is bringing an opportunity to be amongst others who respect you and celebrate you and want to enhance your dignity and your human and the quality of your life, and yet they allow you to, if you want to, just to be silent, and in that moment of silence just to enjoy all that we have around us and all that life can give. And if we can just continue to steal those moments and be gifted those moments and we give each other those moments, I think we've given each other some peace. Well, I think the documentation of our individual experiences often begin to expose us to messages that resonate with others, that we say, actually, you know what? Yeah, I can see that. I have a similar idea. I share that. And we will then see that we are more the same than we are different.